Anson, there we go. Here is a legit question for a friend running two Comp 12Rs on a 1200.1. He keeps blowing 100 amp A&L fuses. He has a 200 amp alternator, so fine there. I have thought, but what say you? Man, you know, think of a fuse as, you know, just limiting power. So if you're staying at 14 volts, you should never really pull more than that 100 amp fuse can do, theoretically, depending on the efficiency of the amplifier, but you're still like right there. You know, that 1200 watt kicker amplifier probably pulls that 100 to 110, maybe 120 amps, depending. You know, and that's where you're just blowing the fuses over time. It's not that initial current. It's just those fuses are built for not power, but heat. And depending, you know, the resistance of the fuse and the amount of current is going to build heat whenever you hit a certain threshold really fast. And whenever you go over like 150% of a fuse rating, that's when they're going to pretty much pop within seconds, and more quicker, obviously. But if you're pulling like right around its rated, and maybe it's not the best A&L fuse or just whatever type of fuse you got, it might just start to melt, and that's when you run into that. I learned that back in the day whenever I didn't have a battery in the back of my car and I was melting fuses in the front. I'm like, why am I melting fuses? And even whenever I upgraded to my 320 amp alternator from Ohio Gen, I had a 250 amp fuse in the front. And it wouldn't blow, but it was melting over time, and then it just stopped working. You know, it would blow eventually, and it was melting, not the fuse holder, but just the fuse itself was melting. And that's because you're right around how much power that fuse can handle, and it's just the slow burn of heat blowing it over time, and just whatever this exact situation is. I would just run a bigger fuse. I mean, I know that makes sense, but just you got a 200 amp alternator, you are actually creating a bottleneck right there. With that fuse, you're adding resistance, and then whenever that fuse gets hotter from all that power going through and it's not really able to do all that power, you're actually creating even more go through there because more voltage drop, physics, whatever, and that's why it just goes eventually even faster. Now if you'd started to turn it down as that heat went up, and then it probably would be okay, but it's not like that. You're just bumping down the street and then it just starts melting and stuff. So yeah, I would at least have a 250 amp fuse on the front there. You don't want to bottleneck your alternator. That's the last thing you'll want to do, and go from there, and I think you'll be okay. But also, what kind of battery do you have in the back? If you don't have a battery in the back and you just have a high output alternator on a battery in the front of the car and there's no battery in the back, what's going to happen is there's just a lot of current draw over that front to back, because there is no battery in between. When you have a battery in the back and a battery in the front, things tend to balance a little bit better through the whole circuit. If you have just that battery in the front and nothing in the back, all that current from that amplifier, instead of pulling from that back battery and then to the front, it's pulling all that current through your car to the front battery. And then that's another reason why you see that fuse blow, you know? So if you put a battery in the back, if you don't have one, it's probably why it's going, because you can get away with a lot more if you have a battery in the back of your car. You know, I've done it, man. I've literally clamped 4,000, mind you, on a burp, but like I was playing this car too, you know, like about 1,500, 2,000 watts on an 8-gauge wire. Now, anybody that knows fuses knows that makes no sense. That would just blow the fuse. A 50 amp fuse? Are you kidding me? How'd you do that? It's because there's a battery in between. Now, of course, I could only charge so much, you know, but it never blew that 50 amp fuse of 8-gauge wire going front to back because there's a battery in the back of the car. And I think that could also fix that situation without even replacing the fuse. But you might as well upgrade that since you do have a 200 amp alternator. In my situation, was still stock. So, hey, either way, it works. Appreciate you, Anson. And these are the questions that I am here to do. Anson, hey, anytime, man. Anytime. Diesel Man, curious about your opinion on the Down4Sound LTO batteries. Oh no, here we go. Someone got me on batteries. Here we go. Stream's over. Everyone's logging out. No, the Down4Sound batteries, they got the LTO 6.0s, they have the JP40s, and either of those are good options. You know, anytime you buy a battery that is pre-made from a brand or what have you, and especially of the lithium type, because there's not really a lot of lithium out there designed for car audio. Most of the lithium that's out there, like it's a brand name, is like Solar. It's got BMSs, and with a BMS you can't, there's not really, there are 200 amp BMSs and probably more, but they're really expensive. And that's how they design those batteries. And with car audio, you're not doing deep cycles, so BMS really isn't very important. It's more of a balancer just to keep the cells balanced. So there's that, putting it together, and they gotta make money for what they do. You know, I don't know if everyone's living under a rock or not, but you at least gotta make more than 50% of what you paid on the product to be able to have it make sense for your company. So you're going to pay more than doing it yourself. But if you don't know how to do it yourself, any of those brands that make batteries like Down4Sound, XS, all those, JY, everything under the umbrella is a smart option to do. And it depends what you're running, what battery is best. And I like how they give you options, and that's the beauty of the time we live in with car audio and batteries and amplifiers and subwoofers. There's so many choices out there. It's hard to make the wrong one, but you sometimes can make the wrong one depending what you're doing. So do they work? Are they good? Hey, they do what they claim. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks for tuning in. Seen too many lithium runaway fires to trust lithium in car audio. And I mean, whew, I would say any battery is dangerous and can have runaway fires. Now, are some more safer than others? Sure. Some chemistry safer? Sure. But any battery that has a lot of power potential has a potential to catch fire. It just does. Even with LTO being one of the safest batteries, with that much power, it could not even be from the batteries itself. Say something arcs and it just, you know, creates a spark. It'll just weld things and just catches your carpet on fire. You're talking about a battery setup that can discharge, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 times itself of capacity. And that's a lot of current. Like, AGM batteries just don't do that. They're not built like that. So that's why a lot of people have a problem of jumping to lithium, but it's just, you're messing with something that's a higher, just energy dense battery, and then the chemistries that go along with it that can also be combustible depending the chemistry. So that's why I try to help as much as I can with battery questions, and it all does come down to the user, how you install it. And just if you're pushing the equipment too hard, if you're blowing up an amplifier, making it go and protect all the time, maybe you shouldn't run lithium right away. You should learn to run your system a little bit more and learn about things, and learn it on a smaller level too. It's a little bit cheaper that way, I'll tell you that. Log, thank you for tuning in. Are they planning a solo X18? Absolutely. From the horse's mouth himself, Steve Irby said it on Unmasked, I would say about a year and a half ago. I don't know, give or take. So, you know, he's the owner. He can say whatever he wants. And it is coming. It's in the works. When will it be here? I don't know for sure. But I would say maybe next year sometime. You know, I wouldn't say before Slamology or after. That's hard to decipher. You know, like I get some whispers, but at the end of the day, I understand their process, and Kicker has their formula. So whenever it gets here, and guys will be able to get it. I know you could probably fit an 18 in there, Lock. You probably could. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate that you're here, man. This guy's doing live streams and stuff all the time, tuning in, and I know he runs Sundown, but it's okay. It's okay. There is no brand bashing on this channel. But hey, if you need some ST door speakers, I mean, come on. That's a win. That's a win. The more I do this, the more, you know, anybody learns about car audio, and then someone else finds out you know about car audio, they're going to be knocking on your door saying, hey, can you help me out? Can you help me out? And it just gets crazy with the messengers, the comments, and I love this platform, and you guys keep it going. The ones that support, thank you so much, man. Would you look at that? That's a little late. That's a little late, but would you look at that? Thank you, El Fuego. I appreciate you. Someone said, Sony, I smelt it. Well, if you smelt it, you exploded it? Is that the math we're going on? What Cracker said, Andy is a man full of knowledge. Any questions, just ask him. He is more than willing to help the fellow basshead. Thank you, Cracker. And you know what, I love doing that. And I know, like, half the time we're here just talking, but I'm waiting for that person that has a question, that happens to stumble across the live stream or what have you, to help them. And I find joy in it. I honestly, truly do. And thank you. That means a lot hearing that. Thank you, Cracker.